Today's episode, we're going to talk about why the IT band is basically just like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. The only thing it ever knows how to say is I am tight. But is that really what it is saying? Is that really what the problem is? We're going to talk about that today, all the anatomy of why perhaps it's not telling you the right thing. You don't need to smash it with a foam roll, and it's supposed to be tight. Hey there, and welcome. I'm Anna Hartman, and this is Unreal Results, a podcast where I help you get better outcomes and gain the confidence that you can help anyone, even the most complex cases. Join me as I teach about the influence of the visceral organs and the nervous system on movement, pain, and injuries, all while shifting the paradigm of what whole body assessment and treatment really looks like. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Unreal Results podcast. Today we're filming in morning light, which is a little different. It is what it is. Got to get it in. I'm headed up to Northern California to help my sister take care of my youngest niece while they're on a little trip with my middle school niece on a service trip. And so I'm trying to get this in before I have to do stay-at-home mom duties and not have any free time to do stuff. The podcast today actually was inspired by this past weekend. I was teaching anatomy to a group of yoga teacher training, 200-hour yoga teacher training students at Yoga One San Diego. So I teach their anatomy portion of their teacher training, and the way I teach anatomy is actually like super experiential, like feeling it in their body, feeling it in action, so they can have a better idea of how to utilize knowledge of anatomy to improve the movement experience for their students and themselves. So less about like memorizing names of muscles and bones and ligaments and things like that, but actually knowing where things are and in their body and feeling it, seeing it on a skeleton and feeling it in their body, and then seeing how it applies in the different yoga poses and things like that. So, I don't even remember like how it came up, but of course one of the questions from one of the participants was, it was about the IT band and like specifically foam rolling the IT band. And I was like, ooh, yeah, let's not do that. I'm a very firm, like, no on that. So I'm very firm no on foam rolling the IT band. So then I explained to them why, and I thought, you know what, this is probably a great episode for podcast. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the old IT band, and if you are still foam rolling it or telling your patients and clients to foam roll it, maybe this knowledge will help you change your mind. So inevitably, well, this is interesting too, because this whole conversation about why one should not foam roll the IT band it's like twofold. It's one, like understanding the anatomy a little bit better, and then it's also debunking myths about how the body functions, and then it's also fundamentally a bigger story about outsourcing your trust in your own body, like outsourcing your trust in your body. What I mean by that is like not having autonomy and believing the quote unquote experts over yourself and the messages your body is giving you about what you're doing to it, right? So because when you think about it, your body, when you're foam rolling the IT band, is like constantly telling you probably shouldn't be doing that. It is an extremely uncomfortable experience by design, but yet we believe there's two things. One, we believe the people who told us to do it, whether it was an actual human in front of us that told us to do it, or something we read on the internet or watched on the internet, or just like sort of passed down from person to person. We were once told that the expert says that your IT band was tight and you should roll it out, and that will help knee pain or hip pain or just general squat mobility or whatever it may be. And then it's a little leftover as well from this old school thought process of no pain, no gain. And no pain, no gain, this is just like a very archaic way of thinking. So we definitely need to throw that out in general. We talk a lot about on this podcast, and I talk a lot about on Instagram and the YouTube videos, is we're wired for survival, and pain is usually associated with a threat. And so from a nervous system standpoint, if things are painful all the time, you're never quite shifting into the rest, recovery, restoration, regeneration side of your nervous system, and actually being able to tap into the body's ability to heal itself, and also maximizing your mobility, stability, and performance. That is all accessed when we have a balanced autonomic nervous system and can access our parasympathetic side. So if everything you're doing to the body, especially in the label of rehab or maintenance care or like regeneration, like things that are you're supposed to be doing designed to help you feel better, if you do them with the intention of always eliciting pain, you're giving a mixed message to the nervous system. That is just not the mode of the nervous system that we need to be in if we're trying to tap into our body's ability to heal itself and fully rest and recover and like get over the hump of like training aches and pains or injuries. So, and then also the bigger picture is this, and this is what I'm like so big about preaching, is I always tell people that I need you to trust your body more than anything. And that includes me. Like, don't trust what I say because I am supposedly the expert. I want you to feel it for yourself and believe it for yourself. This is like this weekend why it's so important to teach in an experiential sort of way, is because I don't want you to believe me about like where the hip joint is, or that the getting the fibula to move is important, or rib mobility and expansion through the thorax is like the secret sauce to connecting into your core and giving your upper extremity like a solid base to move from, right? I don't want you to believe me because I said so. I want you to believe me because you also felt it in your body, and your body felt like it was a positive movement experience and it just felt really connected, right? So I'm a big believer of like giving people back their autonomy and giving people back permission to trust their own wisdom of their body, that our bodies are so intelligent, self-developing, self-healing, like intrinsically interconnected, intelligent cellular organisms. And so we need to lean into that more than we need to lean into the professionals in the industry, because frankly, the industry has gotten it wrong for a really long time. So that's sort of the overarching thing, because specifically in the IT band, every single person you ask if they've rolled their IT band and what the experience was like, they'll say it was super painful. And they're like, everybody's like, oh yeah, oh you're an athletic trainer. Man, I hate rolling out my IT band. It's so painful. And I'm like, yeah, stop doing it. Why would you do that? Why are you inflicting pain on yourself? But then the answer usually is, well, I heard that's what you're supposed to do. It's really good for you. And I'm like, yeah, it's not good for you. The reason why it's so painful is by design, because in twofolds. One, within the fascia of the IT band, this is a very dense connective tissue fascia that's very superficial. The fascia has like so many sensory nerve endings in it. And it is constantly sensing where we are in space and giving feedback to the spinal cord and the brain. And so you essentially are giving it all this information that it's like not happy. Because too, the IT band, when you look at how it's designed, it's not designed to withstand compression. It's designed to withstand tension and like longitudinal compression from gravity, not like a 2x4 on your thigh. So the other thing is, in addition to those sensory nerve endings that are within the fascia itself, the IT band also has throughout the length of the IT band, are perforating branches of one of our main cutaneous nerves of our thigh. It is the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve. And in fact, when you ask people what the most tender spots are on their IT band when they roll them, they point to exactly the location of where this branch of the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve perforate the fascia and come towards the skin to innervate the skin. It's a cutaneous nerve. And so when you're rolling on those, you're essentially smashing those branches of the cutaneous nerve, which doesn't feel good. Those are threatening messages. Those are nociceptive messages of compression of a nerve. And so it's never going to feel good, no matter how much you roll it. And so then the next question that people usually give me is like, well, but why does it feel so tight? And this was the funny conversation in the weekend that I was like, listen, as smart as our nervous system is, when it's under attack like this, or just when it's not happy, right? When a nerve's being entrapped or compressed, a peripheral nerve's being entrapped or compressed, the majority, or over lengthen, the majority of the experience we feel in our brain, right? The way we understand the sensation is, the only way we describe it is it feels tight. The word tight in describing things as tight is pretty worthless. I basically explained it like, it's like your IT band is like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. You know how Groot is like, big and tough and strong and but cannot communicate. Groot can only say one thing. All he says is, I'm Groot. Right? And that is exactly what the IT band does. All those nerves can really ever say is, I'm tight. And so you roll them and you piss them off, and then they're like, I'm tight. I'm tight. I'm tight. That's the only message they're ever sending to you. And so what happens when you're rolling on them, sometimes that message, them yelling at you that they're tight, all right? They're saying like, I'm Groot, I'm Groot. You roll them, it's essentially like beating them up. And when you beat the shit out of somebody, oftentimes they become unconscious, right? That's sort of what happens. You beat the shit out of the IT band, and instead of yelling at you that it's tight, it just stops yelling at you. And so you have this sort of analgesic effect of like, oh, I feel better. But then the next day you wake up, the IT band comes to, and then it's like really yelling at you. And guess what it says? I'm tight. I'm tight. I'm tight. It's telling you the same message because that's the only message it knows how to relay. So don't believe the message that I'm tight, because it's like Groot. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. So anyways, kind of a funny way to explain it, but that's exactly what's happening. And also, even if the message "I'm tight" was an accurate one, it's supposed to be tight. Believe me, you do not want your IT band to not be tight. You would not be able to stand up. You would literally fall down as a result of gravity pressing down on you without having a really tight tensional structure of our fascia to help hold our legs up. We need it to be tight. If you look at the anatomy of the IT band, the collagen fibers that are aligned in vertical on the IT band are so strong. The capacity to withstand tensile force of the IT band is ridiculously strong. We're talking about thousands and thousands of pounds of strength. And no foam roll is going to change that. No stretch is going to change that, because it's designed to withstand those forces of tension, right? And we want that. Now, you also have fibers of collagen on the different type of collagen on the IT band that go horizontal to the ground and basically invest in the rest of the fascial container of the thigh. Those collagen structures, they are designed to stretch. They're more flexible collagen. And they have to stretch to allow for a change in shape of the cylinder when your quad and hamstrings and adductors contract. So there is stretch that goes circumferentially around the IT band, from the IT band, but not in a tension standpoint. So if you're feeling like your IT band is tight, meaning you're bringing your leg towards the midline in hip adduction, it's not the IT band that's limiting you. It's other structures. Either it could be the TFL, which connects into the IT band, the glute medius or minimus, right? Connects into the IT band. The glute max connects into the IT band. Could be the lateral quad, or it could be the lateral hamstring, or, which I think it is most of the time, it's usually, in my experience, most of the time, a combination between the piriformis and the TFL that is limiting range of motion into hip adduction at 0 degrees of hip extension, meaning with your legs straight, like long axis hip adduction. It's almost always the piriformis, because the piriformis at that degree of hip flexion, which is 0, long axis, is our primary hip abductor and external rotator. All right. This is a very important part of the way our gait works, is this action of the piriformis in a closed chain position. I know often we think of the piriformis as just a rotator, and often, like, we stretch it in 90 degrees of hip flexion, it has a completely different function than when its main function during walking. And so it's going to limit our hip abduction, or adduction, quite a bit. And so focusing treatment or focusing a stretch on the piriformis can often get us that leg to midline mobility we're looking for with the IT band. The other one would be the TFL, and the TFL, interesting enough, is innervated by the same nerve that innervates the piriformis, which is the superior gluteal nerve. So oftentimes both of those are tight together, not because of any other issue, but the nerve that goes to them gets entrapped. So sometimes if you take a step back and can treat the superior gluteal nerve with whatever treatment you want, can be hands-on, can be a cup, can be a needle, can be a movement pattern, like a nerve glide, you're going to get the piriformis to change in length and the TFL to change in length, and all of a sudden your leg's going to go way more into hip adduction. Now, the other thing that I notice is at higher levels of hip flexion, the majority of the tension, at least in my athletes, comes from glute max. Glute max glute max goes into the IT band. The IT band is like the tendon to the glute max. So that muscle can get really tight, especially my athletes who are always doing a ton of sprinting, acceleration work, and squatting, and all the glute things. And so that can be a primary limiter of the range of motion too, not the actual IT band itself. The IT band is not designed to stretch. So you can see a great video of this, the anatomy of the IT band and these college instructors on YouTube from Gil Headley. I'll link it in the show notes because it's so cool to see. Because once you can see the architecture of the tendon, of the IT band, of the fascia, you can begin to understand why it's not supposed to not be tight. It's supposed to be tight by design. So whether or not that is even a clear message coming from it or not, that it's tight, it's okay. It's supposed to be. So definitely check that out. And I'll provide you some in the show notes too. I'm going to link the superior gluteal nerve glide because that's going to help piriformis and TFL. And then I'll also link a nerve glide to the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve. So sometimes this tight sensation not only can be from smashing the lateral femoral cutaneous branches with the foam roller rolling your quad out, your IT band out, but sometimes this message of tightness on the outside of our thigh there can actually be because the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve is getting entrapped somewhere along its line as it comes from the spine around the posterior abdominal wall, top of the iliac crest, and then it actually comes through a little ligamentous canal right by the TFL and IT band there, and sometimes it gets entrapped right there, and then you have sensation, sometimes numbness on the side of your leg, but oftentimes when a nerve's entrapped, instead of being completely numb, it just feels tight on the side of, again, it's Groot. It's all it knows is I'm tight. And so that's a really great thing to try too, is a lateral femoral cutaneous nerve glide. It looks a lot like a traditional quote unquote IT band stretch, but the intention is different. And intention matters. We're not trying to stretch the thing that's supposed to be tight. We're stretching or gliding the nerve at a very specific spot where it sometimes doesn't glide very well. And then with that said, does that mean, also I don't want you to finish this podcast and think like, oh, Anna is against self-massage. That's not it at all. I'm 100% pro self-massage. It's super helpful to rehydrate some of the fascial tissues and just work on some of our muscles. But again, you have to know the anatomy and be smart about it. And a hard tool on the IT band, which is what a foam roll is, especially nowadays, most foam rolls are so hard, that's not the right spot and it's not the right tool. Most of the time, a hard foam roll like that, there's not a whole lot of spots that I would recommend it. The only reason I use a hard foam roll is actually as a prop for exercises or just to lift a body part up. I'm not using it as a self-massage tool at all, because if you look at the research and you experience it, the softer balls, so the softer stress transfer medium, it's called, actually can get deeper into the tissues and do a better job of creating or facilitating rehydration of the tissues through shearing of the fascia. It's this shearing, this being able to be in the fascia and sort of shearing it, that actually stimulates the hyaluronic acid in it to improve the fascial hydration, because the hyaluronin brings water to the area. And so having the right tool and then using it in the right spot is important. So can you roll something on the IT band area? Yes. Could it be helpful for the structures beneath that superficial band? Absolutely. And it's also very important to get the area underneath the IT band and the edges of the IT band to have good hydration, so it slides and glides on each other. But it's a different tool. A softer ball with, more intention is important. And then also realizing that when you have a really intense area of the IT band, you're probably right on one of those deep perforating branches of the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve, and don't have the massage ball or person's hand, thumb, elbow right in that spot. Just move to the side of it and you're going to have a better experience because you're not beating the shit out of the nerves. So hopefully this was helpful. Definitely check out all the links in the show notes, and know that just because you're getting the message of tightness doesn't mean something's tight and it needs to be smashed or stretched. Understanding the anatomy allows us to have a better intention and a more skilled or precise and specific way to make changes in range of motion into hip adduction if that's what you need and want. But don't do it because you think it's needs to be done, or it's the thing to do, or you're tight. So the best way to make your IT band feel better for almost everyone is just stop foam rolling it. Let it breathe and move your body. Stop foam rolling. Stop beating the shit out of it. That's it. That's all I got from you. Back to like an actual short episode. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.